we're going to start with some warm-ups before we do a breathing centering. So grab whatever you're utilizing for the danda. And like I said, if you need a strap, you can use a strap. What you'll have to do, which actually makes it a little harder if you're using the strap, is maintain a consistent tension on the strap, whereas the danda actually gives you that baseline to start with. So you're actually making it, you're getting a more of a challenge with the strap in this instance. So ground yourself into a comfortable stance, whatever works for you to feel stable in your feet. And then bring your hands out in front of you, grip the danda, grasping it strongly. And now imagine that you are revving, if you had, a motorcycle or something, that you're revving the engine. So move your fingers towards the floor and then move your fingers away from the floor. So you'll get that both flexion and extension. And as you start to do this, again, any speed, you might notice that you need to bend your arms at your elbows. If you start to feel the weight of your arms out in front of you with a longer lever, and that's fine, you can take breaks, but go, as you can with your arms in that straight out in front of you position. And then as you're revving, you can move your arms down towards like a neutral resting position, and then move them up. And as you start to bring them over your head, you might need to adjust for your shoulders and open your hands wider. So you don't have to remain fixed in one distance of your hands, but continuously rev. And again, when you need a little break in your shoulders, you can bring it closer, you can take it out in front of you. Awesome, I'm just gonna step closer so I can check out what everybody's doing. And you might notice as you're going up and down, like one arm or one wrist might carry you up a little bit quicker, and you can play around with, noticing if you have any discrepancies there. Okay, now the next time your arms are overhead, which they might already be paused there, so I'll come meet those of you that are already up there, and then as needed, open your arms a little wider and then do some shoulder pass-throughs. And here you can take some of your fingers off the danda. Again, if you're using the strap, you're gonna have to create that pulling out tension, but even if you have the danda, do that as well. So pull out as if you're trying to stretch the danda longer from side to side, and do a few more pass-throughs. And if you need to, walk your room while you're doing that, you don't have to remain super fixed in one spot. But as you're doing your pass-throughs, just notice if there's, again, ways that you manipulate to get the danda around. See if you can adjust your arms to make it a little bit of a smoother transition. Awesome. Okay, now the next time your arms are up overhead, this time you might bring your arms in a little bit closer together, reinstate a stable grip there, and on your next exhalation, side bend to your right. So feel your top half from your ribs upwards, side bend. Now push down into the ball of your right foot and hike your hip up. So you're increasing, you're getting your hip to do some of the side bending. Okay, now bend your knees and come down, cycle them down, and come up the other side. Land on both feet. Good, we're gonna do that 2 more times. So first your upper body side bends, then pick up your hip, and then bend your knees and spiral or cycle and around to the other side. And we'll do that, good, and we'll do that 1 more time. Side bend upper body, pull up your hip, and then heels down, cycling around, and come on up. Great, and if you wanna complete that little round with a couple of pass-throughs, you can do that. Okay, and now bring your arms back down in front of you. We're gonna take a slightly different version of that. And so instead of revving the motorcycle engine, now you're gonna think about like you're wringing out a towel. So as one hand pulls back, the other one pushes forward. I find this one to be more, I don't know, exhausting. So, and now if you have the strap, and I don't know if anybody does, so I'm just cueing it just in case. If anybody has the strap, here you might want to fold that strap up, literally make it taut more and really wring it out, because you'll actually get to do that with the cloth. Like we did on the first round, you can take this into different vectors and spaces. So if you want to check it out, what it might mean like to go a little to the side as you're wringing. Again, if you need to walk your space, because as it gets intense, sometimes the desire to stay still gets a little hard. Okay, so different heights, different positions relative to your torso. You might start to really feel this in your forearms, the front side of your forearms. Okay, and then start to bring that back up. So once again, coming into this upright position, open your hands, do a few more pass-throughs. So not so important that your breath is really synced up to your motion, but do notice if you're holding your breath or gripping, and see if you can bring some more spaciousness to your breath. Great. Okay, and then find a stable place on 2 feet. Bring your arms in a little bit. And now we'll cycle on going to the left. So side bend in your upper body. Then come onto your tiptoes of your left foot, so your hip hikes, and then squat down, cyclone, and come up on the other side. Good. Then to the left with your upper body, hike your hip, then come down, around, and up. Good, and then one more to your left with your upper body, add your hip, then cyclone forward, down, around, up on the other side. And then one more time, a couple of pass-throughs. And now let's take this, let the danda or the yoga strap come down in front of you, and now switch the danda behind you, or whatever you're using here, and take your, I'm not mirroring you in this instance because I'll get confused, but take your left hand with your palm facing out, and then your right hand with your palm facing in. That would be like putting your hand in your back jeans pocket position. Okay, and then decide how wide your hands need to be relative to your shoulders. Now, this one again, you're gonna try to do, it's a little bit of a brain game I found when I was playing with this, is do that twisting action a little bit, so that wringing action. You'll notice that your hands have to move slightly differently. Or maybe they don't move differently, but for some reason when my hands were behind me, it was confusing me more. My brain was not computing this as well. And you might notice if you're always twisting the same way, so you can play around with that. Okay, now pause, and if you need to, open your hands a little wider. Now with your left hand, push the danda up and raise your right arm straight alongside your ear. Good, and then come back down. Now instead of going to the other side, which many of you are used to, you're gonna rotate a couple of times. And then you're gonna just stay on this side. So you're gonna add rotation. You might even dip down and rock it side to side. Up and down. Maybe depending on your space there, you might imagine you're drawing with the tip of the danda. Again, if you have the strap, you're gonna have to maintain a little bit more structure through this. You can come kind of really get interpretive in your movement. Your feet don't have to remain in one spot. Okay, good. And now pause and switch your hands. So now your right hand will turn with the palm facing away, and left hand will turn like a back jeans pocket position. Come back one more time to that wringing out. And I forgot to mention this on the first side, but you can play around with moving your hands away or towards your hips. So that would be one more element of movement here. So shoulder extension with wrist movement. And I don't know all the technical terms of my wrist motions. I should, but I don't have them dialed in yet. Okay, and then pause and take your hands a little bit more open if needed. And now this time the dowel is going to go up towards your left. Right arm will bend. And then as it comes down, you can add a little rotation in your spine and in your hips and how you're orienting to your space. Okay, so this is a little bit more free form, but still feel that push and pull as you're moving the danda or the yoga strap for that matter, close and far and in different positions relative to your body. We'll go another few moments here. And again, just watch if you have a lamp or something. I've had my own experiences with breaking furniture in my house playing with my danda. Okay, great. And then pause and let the danda come back around. And we're going to leave that off to the side. We don't need that anymore. So if you want to take it out of your way all the way, that's fine. Come grab your blanket, whatever you're utilizing, and open it, again, depending on what kind you have, but open it up so that you can roll it up. Now, I have a fairly thick blanket. I might not roll this all the way to the end. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a smaller roll. And then come down, go mindfully through a squat to kneeling position and bring the blanket on the back behind your knees. So at the creases of your knees, feet pointed. And then take your time to sit back on your heels, or excuse me, onto the blanket towards your heels, so that the blanket is creating some pressure. Okay, and then as you come up, don't worry if it slid down away from the creases of your knees. You can certainly put it back in, but we're going to hit a couple different spots so you don't have to get too perfect about it. And then depending on how much this feel, how much sensation or how much resistance maybe your calves and your hamstrings feel around this, you can remove some of the load by shifting your weight forward, or you can, play around with that. I sometimes find that I can relax more when I create a little bit of motion side to side, but everybody is going to filter this experience differently. So if you find more resonance being still and letting some pressure build in your legs, but maintain a steady attention to your breath, then by all means, if you need some movement, some swaying, they are both going to provide a different kind of experience to the tissue, but either way works. And then take a moment to change the position. So shift forward and then move the blanket. And you might even change the thickness of the blanket for a different kind of experience. You can move it up or down. You're just going to hit a couple different points on your legs, the backs of your legs. And then again, sit back. And if you want to be upright, but you need it's a little bit challenging, you can also take your blocks and put those alongside you and push down a little bit so that you're not putting all of your body weight on your legs. And again, decide here how you want to meet this experience, with stillness, with a little motion. And then one more time, shift forward and pick one more spot. If you've never tried it closer down towards where like your Achilles tendon meets your calf muscles, I found that to be an interesting experience the first time I I played around with that. So maybe try it a little lower, closer to your ankles. You might find it's easier to sit or more challenging. Sometimes even foot cramps can happen because of, I couldn't even say exactly why, but it can sometimes stimulate a foot cramp, top of the feet, and this deep plantar flexion sometimes. And if you are experiencing any of that, it might be helpful to press your feet down a little bit. And now come forward. And now we'll take a moment to center a little bit. That was an extra long warming up for getting ourselves into the space of practice. Now I'll take a block to sit in hero's pose, or 2 blocks, or if hero's pose doesn't work, another way that you can comfortably sit where you feel upright. And whether your eyes prefer to be open or closed, you can make that choice here and turn your attention to your breath. And as you inhale, observe and sense how your body expands and widens. Breath moves down. There's a pressure that fills in. And then as you exhale, feel how your body contracts back to center and the energy of breath moves up towards the crown of your head. You might even feel taller here. So inhale, relax, let the breath move down, wide and full. As you exhale, feel the energy of your body, the mass of your body move in and tone. As you watch and practice this inter-abdominal exchange of pressure moving your body out and contracting, building a pressure back in, if you will. Can you, in your own experience, just note which, within each breath cycle, for you personally, is there a different way that you experience the breath? In other words, when you inhale, do you feel relaxed or do you feel tense? When you exhale, do you feel relaxed or tense? Is it more even keel as you experience each breath as a wave of expansion and contraction? What are the subtle gestures that you notice within the cycles of your breath? And if you would like to create prayer hands or hands to your heart or somewhere else on your body that to you signifies a sacred relationship, a relationship of honor and respect for your body and for this time that you're carving out to be in the experience of your own movement, mindful movement. May we honor this together. And then release your hands and let your eyes open up. You come off your block, move it off to the side. You can move your blanket off to the side for now. We'll get those again later. And come onto your mat in a quadruped or a hands and knees position. So classic cat-cow here. With your inhale breath, push down and flex your spine and feel the back of your body full. As you exhale, feel your back body contract as your front body expands. Inhale, push down, Really wave your spine from tailbone to crown in flexion. Exhale, tailbone moves up as your spine undulates into extension. Do that 3 more times and go slow enough to really articulate where your spine moves easily or maybe more difficultly, is that a word? Through flexion and extension. With every exhalation, feel your hands and knees pull towards each other. With each inhalation, press down. Feel your relationship moving away, your body's relationship moving away from gravity. And now pause, come to neutral. And with your inhale breath, press your back up into cat position again. So more flexion through your spine. Keep that. And now as you exhale, let your right leg lift it up and point it back. Point your toes. So you're not going to get a ton of lift. Okay. And now come into extension. Let your spine come down. And notice how you kind of eke out a little more lift. That's really coming from your spine, not so much coming from the lift of your leg. Okay, and then bring your knee back down. Let's try that on the other side. So inhale, fill in your back body around your spine, push down. Keep that. On your next exhalation, point your leg straight back. Notice how it doesn't lift very high. Now move your spine into extension, and you might notice you get a lot more lift out of that. So I like this to just observe how sometimes are we using our spine or are we using more of our core or trunk stability? So let's try that one more time. With your inhale breath, flex your spine. Now pick up your right leg and reach it back. Point your foot. Now squeeze everything in. Make all of your limbs strong. And now come more to a neutral position. So take your upper back out of flexion, come to neutral, and now really feel if from crown to toes you have more stability. Option to lift your left arm. Okay, and then lower everything down. Let's do that on the other side. Inhale, flex your spine. Feel your low belly really drawing up towards your back body. Keeping that. On your exhale, lift your left leg, squeeze it strong, push down into the earth. Now come more to a neutral spine. Stay steady and take your right arm up. Notice if there's less tension in your neck, if you're someone who tends to use your neck and shoulders in lieu of kind of like core stability. And then lower back down. Okay. Come to sit back and then you're going to take your blocks and your blanket again. So take the blanket and rather than having it in a roll, fold it up so that it has some thickness to it. And I'm going to turn and face everybody, but you can turn whatever position works for you in your space. And then grab your 2 blocks. Go ahead and place them in both hands and come up to standing. Okay, take your heels rather, up onto the blanket, and I'm going to suggest a wider position through your feet with a slight turn out. Okay, and as we do this, if you want to change the position of your feet, you're welcome to do so. Okay, so hold the blocks in both hands, elbows bent, and you can grip onto the blocks or do flat palms. You'll see what makes more sense for you as we do this together. Okay. So as you inhale, take your arms up, reach your palms up. Keep inhaling as you squat down. Come all the way down. Okay, and now on an exhale, bring your blocks out in front of you and squat here. And now let your back body fill in and take an inhale breath. Take a couple of cycles of breath rather. So inhale and exhale. Okay, now inhale here And as you exhale, take your hands wide, push down and rise up. Take your arms over your head. Good. Now in one inhale, come all the way down to that squat position. So arms come forward. Inhale, come into that squat with a little bit of flexion. And now exhale, push down, press through the floor, take your arms up overhead. Good. We're going to do that 3 more times. So inhale, circle the blocks down, around, come into a squat. You can let your head bow a little bit. Exhale, push against the ground, rise up, arms overhead, like you're pushing the blocks up to the ceiling. Good, and then one more time. Inhale, circle the blocks down, come into a squat. Awesome. Exhale, push down, circle the blocks back up towards the sky. Good, and now this last one, come all the way down into your squat and pause there. Good. Take your inhale breath in your low squat, and now exhale, lift your chest. Think of that as rising up and tap one knee to the floor. Doesn't matter which one, I went with my right knee. So you're in more of an extension with your spine. Okay, now shift back, inhale, blocks in between, right under your chest. And then on your exhale, tap on the other side. So you're gonna transition kind of in and out of the low squat. Inhale, dive with your blocks into a squat. Exhale, rise, tap, and you can even add a little rotation. So you're gonna go back and forth a few rounds between, I'm calling this a mashup, so it's a combination of what we call kneel to heel in the Primal Vinyasa drills, coupled with a little dive and rise. I don't know if there's an official name for it. Okay, and now you can try doing 2 knees forward. So this would be more true to the kneel to heel. And then as you come back, arms go forward and curl in. So now that you have a couple of options here, and maybe something that I haven't suggested, you can play around with different positions. You can even kneel off to the side and be kind of an asymmetrical kneeling position. So one knee will be in front of the other and then shift back. And you might find that some of those positions are a little harder to get in and out of as you come forward and back over your feet. Play with your breath. Inhale to squat, exhale to come back, but you might have to wait for an exhale to move, as I find sometimes I need. Okay, a couple more moments here. Okay, good, and now shift back into your low squats. Inhale, and as you exhale, push down and stand all the way up, and let your arms circle down. Okay, transition off of the blanket, and we're going to still use the blocks, but you can move your blanket off to the side, and then make your way onto your hands and knees. Place your blocks at the top of your sticky mat. Medium setting, you could do low setting here too. Okay, grip your blocks, tuck your toes, and lift your pelvis up. Come into downward facing dog. And take a moment here. Slow down your breath if you're feeling that it's a little revved up. Okay, a strong grip on the blocks. Press down through your left foot and inhale, raise your right leg up, point your foot. And now as you exhale, shift forward and draw your right foot to either tap one of the blocks, or you can bend your knee. And then raise your right leg up, point your foot. As you exhale, come forward and tap another spot, maybe to the left, maybe to the right, maybe to the center. Inhale, bring your leg up. Exhale, pull it through and tap. Kind of maybe an imaginary block in the middle. And one more time, inhale, raise your leg up. Exhale and tap. And now this time, inhale, raise your leg up. And exhale, bring it through for a lunge. Turn your back foot to the floor. And take the block in your left hand out to the left. So off-road from your sticky mat. You can take your arms out and reach onto the block. You can put your hands on the floor if you prefer. Strong legs here, front knee bent, back leg straight, squeeze your legs. And now leave the block there, walk your hands over back to the block near your right foot and straighten your leg for triangle pose. Take your left arm up. And now circle your arm down, bend your right knee, and then reach back over to the left. So you can do both hands on the block, or you can sweep and tap a spot on the floor. And then walk it back over and come back into triangle pose. Okay, so we're gonna take this as a moment to transition in and out of these two places. And you can work on using your hands to help you, or to play with the idea of not using your hands to transition in and out of these forms. So staying more stable in your legs as your upper body swirls around. So there's not one way to go in and out of this. Great. Okay, now reach for the block near your left, out to your left, and pull it in. Turn your back heel up and bring your left knee to the floor. Turn the block under your right hand flat, so it's flat on the earth, and then the left block can turn any height, so it might end up being on the high setting. I'm going to start there. You can try it out or change it. Okay, so coming back to something we've already practiced a couple times here, as you inhale, flex your spine and feel more fullness in your back body. Now keep that fullness, and on your next exhalation, push down into the earth and lift your right leg up. See if you can put your foot on the top of the block. Okay, and then take a moment just to release and bring your pelvis forward. Okay, then shift it back, and again, flex your spine, big inhalation. Exhale, pick up your foot and bring it back to the floor. Okay, shift forward and shift back. So that's like a little Etch-a-Sketch move, just like resets everything. Inhale, exhale, push down, lift your foot up, shift your weight forward and back. Back body full, lift your foot, step it down, forward and back. Now this time, same thing, flex your spine, push down, take your right foot back up onto the block, and this time, push down into the, lift your back knee, and step your left foot to the outside of your block. So you're in more of a off-center squat here. Bring your forearms to your thighs, take an inhale breath. Exhale, push down, stand up, and lift your left leg up. So balance, point your left foot, and now shift, bend your right knee, step down, inhale, squat, exhale, push down, and rise. We're gonna do this 3 more times. Squat, inhale, push down, exhale. Inhale, squat, exhale, stand. 1 more, squat, stand. This time, squat, pause there. Take the block under your hands, the free block, and walk your left foot in so it's underneath your pelvis. So you have your right knee, foot on the block, left foot on the floor. Bend your right knee and put your hands on the block for scales. Push down and lift your left leg up. Rebend your right knee and step your foot down. Repeat, push down, pull your left leg up, lower it back down. And 1 more time, push down, lift your left leg up, lower your leg down. Now this time, pick up your left leg and start to swing your leg. So point it back, tap it towards the block. It doesn't have to hit the block in front of you, but you're playing around with bringing it forward. And notice how, as your leg comes forward, there's a mild flexion in your low back, your whole spine, but particularly notice how your low back we'll move through mild extension and mild flexion. We're gonna go another 10 seconds. I'm gonna come and check everybody out. Next time you bring your leg in, pause and plant your foot on the floor. Step your right foot off the blocks and bring your hands. They can stay on the blocks. You can use them to even stack the blocks to do a less deep forward fold, or you can go into a fuller flexion through your hips. Take one more breath here, strong legs. And now grab the blocks back onto the medium setting and bend your knees, step back, regular downward facing dog. Come forward into plank. Either knees down, move into up dog, or you can transition right into up dog, your choice. And press back, downward facing dog. I'm going to take that sequence on side 2. Lift your left leg up and bring it forward and tap to the blocks. Inhale, leg up, point your foot, exhale and tap. Inhale, leg up, exhale, tap. Do a couple more. You can also be bending your knee and bringing it forward. So either one. Last time, bring your leg forward, step forward into a lunge, turn your back heel down, and take the block under your right hand out to the side. Okay, reach over, fold over your front leg. Sometimes I call this one down dog lunge. Okay, and then stay low, come back towards your left foot and transition into triangle pose. Okay, and then you get a chance to play around here, moving in and out of down dog lunge and triangle pose. You can move your arms in different positions, different planes. Again, you can be moving with your hands on the floor the whole time, or less use of your hands, more work transmitted through your legs. And notice how you might feel the need to do something different side to side. It's very common. Okay, now grab the block that was out to the right, pull it back in, bring your right knee down to the floor, bring your left block flat on the ground. And again, you can use the block under your right hand to give you a little bit more leverage here. So first, with your inhale breath, back body full, and as you exhale, push down and lift your left foot up. And you might notice a very different situation going on side to side. Let your pelvis come forward. Press your hips back, and then wait until your back body's full. On your exhale, lift your foot up and bring it back to the floor. So my recommendation is every time you're transitioning your foot from one height to the other, transition it through an exhalation. Inhale to back body full, then exhale, use that tone and stability to transition. You might find that you feel more connected, the move will feel more, I wouldn't say effortless, but smoother. Okay. Now the next time your foot is on the block, keep it there. Lift your back knee, and on an exhale breath, step your right foot outside of your block. You can leave the block there, and with an exhale, push down and hover onto your left foot. Point your right toes. Inhale, squat. Exhale, rise up. Inhale, a little bit of dive in your spine. Exhale, push down, a little extension. Do 3 more. Inhale, squat. Exhale, stand. 2 and 1. Squat. And then place your hands down. You can straighten your legs and come off Uttanasana, forward fold. Pause here, breathe. You can hold your elbows. Now from wherever you are, grab your blocks, and one more time, step back, downward facing dog. Move through more traditional vinyasa, so come forward through plank. You can add knees down in a push-up, then transition into up dog, come back into downward facing dog. And now draw your knees to the ground. Keep your knees wide, keep your toes tucked. Bring the inner edges of your feet together and shift your hips back towards your heels. Then you can do this one of two ways. You might come up with a third way I'm not mentioning, but keep the inner edges of your feet together. Squeeze at your inner edges of your feet and ankles, and then walk your arms forward and reach so that your chest can hammock through your upper arms, but notice that you're still keeping a little bit of mild, I would call it really neutral spine, neutral ribs, neutral pelvis. And the other way is you can bring the elbows, slide the blocks back, bring your elbows onto it and bend your arms. Sometimes this will feel better in the shoulders than with straight arms. So see what your body is preferencing now. Okay, now keep your neck neutral, ground into your feet and push down into your legs so you're not using all of your stress in your shoulders to lift up. Okay, so here's where we're going to need the sliding action of our blanket. So take a moment to fold up your mat. You won't really need it. It might actually get in the way. So you're going to fold up your mat up, bring it out of the way, and take one of your blocks on the ground, and then take your blanket and your other block and place your block on top of the blanket. And this is just to give it a little bit more heft. If you have a foam block, it may not add that much, but I find it gives you something easier to manipulate around. Okay, so from here, we're gonna come into, I'm gonna turn and face everybody. We're gonna come onto your knees, bring the block between your inner feet, and step your left foot out into like a malasana prep, squat prep, and then sit back onto your block. So you're coming into a supported form of half primal squat. And take the blanket and block out in front of you. So shift, place your palms onto the block, and as you inhale, push the block forward, come into flexion. Exhale, pull back, come into extension. Okay, now move it off to the left towards your front knee and slide, push it out, pull it back in. Now go over to the other side, push out and pull. So every time you're moving away from your center, think you're adding that dive action. As you pull in, pull your arm bones back, squeeze a little your sides and feel extension. Okay, now we can take this off to the side. So you'll have to use one arm at a time. So it's a side dive, I guess you would call it, and a rise. And eventually it's less about being so exacting in every motion, but where can you move away from center and recall back in. Okay. So try to get as far around your seat as you can. Even consider what's behind you. Notice how when you push the block out and pull it back in, you might have to grip a little differently on the block. You can also try using your hands on the blanket for a different experience of it. So the block just adds a little bit more weight, a little bit more resistance. Okay, and now pause and shift forward to change sides. So right shin into left shin into Virasana, right foot into Malasana, half primal squat. And same thing, push and pull. Push and pull your way in and out. Can you notice when you're bringing it towards you, what feels more integrated? Is it when you inhale or when you exhale? And remember, you have space behind you. To the side of you. And now pause, come back to center. Okay, come on off of your seat there and take the block and just tuck it underneath the blanket. This will just add a little more cushion. And take the block under your left knee and the block under your right hand. So now we're coming into that off-center quadruped position. Okay, and now from here, as you inhale, flex your spine, and now push down and lift your right hip up. So you're in a little bit of mild flexion here, and you can have your left toes tucked down or not. Okay, now straighten your leg back behind you and come to neutral spine. Okay, now as you, on your exhalation, bend your right knee and tap your right arm as close as you can. And then straighten your leg. Okay, and then exhale, bend, tap. You can tap somewhere else in the center and come extend your leg again. And then one more time, flex, bring your knee in and extend. Okay, now keep your left toes tucked under. So if they're not on the floor, make sure they're on the floor. And this time, as you exhale, bring your right knee in and lift your left knee off your blanket. Block situation. So a variation on plank pedals here. Left knee down, inhale, neutral. Exhale, curl in. Knee down, inhale, leg back, right leg back. Exhale, pull in. One more, knee down, inhale, leg back. And now this time, as you exhale, keep your left knee down and step your right foot outside of your right hand. Okay. Slide the blanket out of the way and come into your half primal squat. Here's where you have to move your props a little bit out of the way. So now we're going to play around with our gesturing. We've been gesturing the whole time, but now into the idea of a half primal squat. And you know what, actually I need to make a transition here because this, actually it doesn't matter, we can work with it this way. So take your hands out in front of you and come into that little tiny, more compressed, if you will, more rounded shape of your spine. Push down into your left leg and shift your weight over your hand. So your right foot might still be on the ground. And see if you can pick up your right foot. Point your foot and squeeze in. Okay, now this time you can tuck your back toes and hop your leg back. You can also come back down and have a seat in your half primal squat. I'm going to give you another option to try. So that's one way to play around with the idea of one leg crow. Another is to continue to create that more compressed shape and straighten your left leg behind you. Okay, so another variation here on the same side, come down into your half primal kind of forward fold here. Place your hands, shift your weight forward. Now instead of straightening your left leg, On your exhalation, pull your knee in. Pull your knee in. And then come back down. So this, a lot of times what makes it feel doable is moving fast. And we're not doing that, so it can feel really hard. So what, you can play around with those one more time, or if you feel like you can make your leg straight, which is changing, it's making your back leg feel a lot heavier. So as your leg gets heavier, you have to really pull up. You have to actually increase the feeling of flexion in your spine. Weight shift into your hands and really draw in from the front body. So you can try one more. Bring your hands down, shift your weight, pull your leg in, and now keep contracting your back as you straighten your left leg. And then you can pause. Okay, and if anybody has any questions, please chime in. I'm here to answer your questions. Okay, we have to do that on the other side, but please chime in regardless. Okay, so let's take the blocks back in. Left hand goes on top of the block. Right knee goes on your blanket block. And come to your all fours position. And then take a moment there just to feel a little more. You can do a little mini cat-cow here, or a couple of rounds, I should say. And notice how you're going to feel off center. Then come into a little bit more of a mild flexion. Push down, lift your left knee up. And now straighten your leg back behind you. Okay. On your next exhalation, draw your knee and then tap. So you can bring your knee towards your left arm. Extend your leg away. Draw it in, tap. You can try tapping across or to the middle. It's not really important where it goes, just that you're practicing it. Come back to center. Try one more, draw it in. So notice how you pull in, your low back, low belly has to flex. And then come to neutral when you extend. Okay, and now lower your back toes. Keep your keep your right toes tucked under. And as you exhale, draw your left knee in as your right knee lifts off the block. Inhale, right knee down, left leg behind. Exhale, lift your right knee as your left knee comes towards your chest. And one more time, right knee down, neutral spine, left leg back. Exhale, curl in, right knee off the block. Okay, then lower your knee. Step your left foot to the outside. And then shift back. Move your props out of the way, and we're going to play with our flying crow here. So spinal flexion, come down, hug your arm bones in so you feel stable there. And now shift your weight and bring your left foot off of the ground. And then come back down. You can stay with that the whole time. Okay, another variation. Come in, lift your left foot up, tuck your right toes under, and you can do a little hop back and come into kind of a variation on plank. Hop your foot in, knee down, and sit back. Next variation is to bring your knee in towards your chest, so shift down, come forward, left foot up, and try to draw your right knee in. So you're becoming more compressed. Yeah, and then the final variation is to try straightening your back leg. And again, if you're just taking your time, shifting forward and transitioning weight from your hands to your feet, you're gesturing towards this pose. It's part of the deal. So no effort is really wasted here. And resting is valid. Pausing is completely welcome. You can bring your mat back on into your space if you want, or if you're comfortable without it, that's fine too. Let's take the blanket now. So you're going to take your blanket and bring your abdomen onto the blanket. So again, you might find you want the yoga mat, especially if you're on a hardwood floor, it might feel too slippery. Let's see what works. So let's bring the blanket more towards the bottom of your rib basket. And then if you feel like you're just sinking into it, find a way to rest into it where you're not thrusting your ribs into it, but it's actually helping you keep your ribs stable. So if you're pulling too far forward where your ribs are pushing into the blanket, can you soften a little bit and actually let the blanket create a little pressure against your ribs to keep them kind of rooted down and back. Okay, so with that, bend your left leg and take hold of your foot or ankle or shin, whatever you can grasp. And take a few breaths here. Neck neutral. It's not so much like we're accentuating a back bend here in the upper back, more that we're creating extension in the hip. And belly can free up a little bit here without as much pressure against the floor. Then change sides, release your left leg, put your left forearm down, and then bend your right knee, grasp at the top of your foot or ankle or shin, and draw it in. And again, you don't have to accentuate lifting up and out of your chest or lifting your chest forward. Let it actually release towards the ground. Use your left forearm just to create some structure. Free up your neck and let your abdomen open a little bit here. And then release. And now move the blanket a little bit lower so that it's more in your navel or above or below that to some degree. And then let your legs shimmy side to side. So windshield wipe. If you're on the floor and the blanket is kind of moving out of where you want it to be, adjust it so that it's working for you. And then release that, roll off to one side. And what you can do, if you didn't put your mat down, depending on the kind of blanket you have, of course, you can open up your blanket and just use it for your head and your shoulders and pelvis. Just so you have a little bit of cushion, especially if your floor feels really hard. Come onto your back and take your keep your left foot flat on the floor. Take your right knee into your chest and then straighten your leg and hold the back of your thigh. So clasp your hands behind your thigh and kick your heel up to the sky and press your thigh into your palms. Notice if your pelvis is tucking under, see if you can release that more neutral. And then option to straighten your left leg. Keep stretching through your heel so the ball of your foot is, or the toes are moving towards your head. Yeah, and then bring your left foot back flat. Bring your right ankle over your left thigh and draw your legs in. For this, you don't have to hook behind your thigh, but rather just let your legs go side to side. So it's not really like we're going into a full twist, so you can kind of tap in and out. But this is really more your lower half rotating. And then unhook your right leg. And let's do that on the other side. So keep your right foot flush to the ground. Hold the back of your left thigh, clasp it in your palms, and kick your heel up to the sky. So your thigh bone is moving into the cups of your hands. And as you draw your leg closer in, whatever degree you're playing with that, just watch what's happening at your pelvis. So can you keep your pelvis more neutral? Okay, not overarching your back or flattening your low back, keeping it more neutral and just noticing where your capacity to hip hinge with your legs straight. And then you can extend your right leg optionally. Keep extending your heel up. So you're gonna feel some tension all throughout your leg. You then draw your right foot flat, take your left ankle over your right thigh and bring your knees in. And allow for a little bit of rotation of your lower body. So I have my hands on my ribs just to notice if I'm starting to move from there or arching my back. So I'm keeping that more neutral, just letting my pelvis rotate with my legs in this form. And putting some of those parameters on it will help you notice when you start borrowing from other areas. And you might find that your twisting is a little bit more integrated because we did so much lower abdominal stabilizing through this practice. So while your twist might not be quote unquote deep in terms of the appearance, it might feel more like you have more influence over it, not just heavy limbs pulling you to side. And then come back to center. So straighten out for your preferred Shavasana form. So that might be knees bent or legs straight, or even a Baddha Konasana leg position. And as best you can in this shortened time, feel your body make contact with the ground. And let your whole body rest.